My wife accused me of cheating, but she was the one drowning in lies. I exposed her, and what happened next was pure hell. Let's find out how I destroyed her life. My name is Josh, I'm 28 years old, and if someone had told me a year ago that my life would start turning into a cheap drama, I would have just laughed in their face. But, as they say, fate loves to throw a curveball. And here you go. My wife Lily, whom I've been with for 7 years, just accused me of cheating. Yeah, cheating, buddy. And you know what? I was absolutely shocked. Imagine the scene. We're at home, it's Friday evening, usually a time when we're either binge-watching series or going out for drinks. By the way, she's mostly the one dragging me out. I'm more of a homebody. Lily comes home from work, tosses her bag on the floor like it's some sort of exorcism ritual to rid her of the demons from her workday, and walks straight to the kitchen without saying a word. Right then, I felt something was off. Normally, she'd at least throw in a, "Hey, babe." But this time, nothing. Being the eternal optimist, I didn't even think something was wrong. I figured maybe her boss had stressed her out again, or she was stuck in traffic. But then she came back from the kitchen with a look that sent chills down my spine. Not the, "Oh, I'm upset" kind, but more like, "Get ready, I'm about to destroy you." She stood in front of me and said, "Josh, I know you have someone else." At first, I didn't even understand what she was talking about. I have someone else? I barely have time for myself, and now, apparently, I'm leading a secret double life that even I didn't know about. My mind was racing, but the first thought that popped into my head was, how on earth did she come up with this? "Are you serious right now?" I managed to ask, though inside I was boiling. Where is this even coming from? But Lily stood there like a statue, arms crossed, giving me an icy stare as if I had just burned all her favorite shoes. She started laying out this completely insane story about how her friend saw me in town with another woman. Supposedly, we were sitting in some cafe, laughing, practically cuddling. What nonsense. I don't even remember the last time I went to a cafe without her. Then something clicked in my mind. You know how it goes. Those who shout the loudest about cheating are often the guilty ones themselves. It's like when you're a kid and you hide something, but accuse someone else loudly to deflect attention. It was her, not me. Lily had been staying late at work suspiciously often lately, or meeting up with friends. And suddenly, her friend is the one who saw me with another woman? Something didn't add up, but I wasn't ready to accuse her outright. I was still keeping my cool, even though I was furious inside. I needed to find out what was really going on. And if she wanted to play this game, I was going to play it to the end. So after her absurd accusation, I just stood there, feeling like a complete idiot, trying to process what I just heard. You know what I mean? When you're accused of something you didn't even come close to doing, and you just stand there, not knowing how to react. It's like being accused of robbing a bank when the worst thing you've ever stolen is the last bag of chips from your own pantry. Lily clearly had her mind set on dragging this out. She kept pushing, offering up increasingly bizarre evidence. Like her friend supposedly saw me with some woman in a cafe last week. Okay, stop. Last week? The only place I went without her last week was to the corner store to buy some beer. And if someone can mistake buying 6 cans of beer for cheating, then we've got more than just relationship problems. We've got reality perception issues. You haven't noticed how distant you've become? She kept going, acting as if it was all so obvious. You're cold, always working, disappearing somewhere. Lily, are you serious? I couldn't hold back anymore. If I'm disappearing, it's only because you're always working late or meeting up with friends. That's when I noticed her expression shift. It was clear she hadn't expected me to fight back like that. You know, when you catch someone in a lie and they try to make something up on the spot, but they do it so poorly that it becomes obvious? That was the moment. "Oh, so you're spying on me now?" She suddenly raised her voice, as if I'd just admitted to stalking her with drones or bugging her phone. "Maybe that's why you're acting like this. You're projecting your own guilt onto me. Bingo. She unknowingly revealed herself. I mean, who reacts like that to a normal question if they've got nothing to hide? I was boiling inside. Suddenly, I realized this wasn't just paranoia on her part. It was a strategy. She was trying to shift all the blame onto me to cover her own mess. And then I started remembering how often she'd been talking about a new project at work lately. And what about that guy, Eric, who had recently popped up as just a colleague? Come on, man. The moment I heard his name, my fists were itching. He was always calling, texting her late at night, supposedly about work. I wouldn't have believed that even if Eric himself told me, but I decided not to confront her just yet. I simply smiled at her. Okay, Lily, if you're so sure that I've got someone else, let's see how this plays out. She clearly didn't expect that response and said nothing in return. Her frustration was growing, and I realized at that moment that this was far from over. The situation was much worse than I thought, and I was determined to get to the bottom of it. After that conversation, I felt like I was living in a bad detective show, where the main character tries to unravel a web of lies, but ends up drowning in even more drama. I decided not to jump to conclusions just yet. I'm not the type to rip my hair out and start throwing accusations immediately. But bro, when you feel like your wife is blatantly pulling one over on you and then accusing you of cheating, you can't help but start digging deeper. So, I decided to watch her more closely. Lily, of course, tried to play the part of the normal wife, but every time her phone buzzed, she would flinch like she had a time bomb in her purse. You don't need to be Sherlock to know something was off. And honestly, when you see someone reacting like that, the urge to check their phone becomes overwhelming. One day, I got the perfect opportunity. Lily went to take a shower, leaving her phone on the kitchen counter. I could practically hear the alarm bells in my head. Josh, don't be that guy. Don't check her phone. But, dude, I was already that guy. I couldn't resist, and I opened it. And what did I find? Oh man, you won't believe it. Not only was she having long conversations with Eric, but they were filled with flirting. You know, that kind of over-the-top flirting that makes you feel sick just reading it. She was calling him sweetheart and sunshine. Who talks like that to a work colleague? And him? This guy was sending her a ton of smiley faces, pictures, and comments so explicit that my ears were burning, and I wasn't even involved. At that moment, my blood was boiling. Turns out, while I'd been walking on eggshells, trying to be the best husband, she was having an affair. It all became so obvious that I actually laughed. Yeah, man, I literally laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the situation had become so absurd that there was no other way to react. I took screenshots of all their conversations and saved them to my phone. I wasn't going to confront her just yet, but I was prepared for anything. Lily thought she could pull all this behind my back, but no. Now, I had the cards in my hand, and I wasn't going to back down without a fight. The next day, of course, Lily continued playing her role. She was so sweet, acting like nothing had happened. She smiled, cracked jokes, but I could already see through the whole act. Inside, I was fuming, but I kept it together. If she wanted to play this game, I was going to play along. And that's when things got interesting. I realized the situation was reaching a new level. I hadn't just caught her lying. I had gathered evidence, and I was only waiting for the right moment to drop the bomb. Oh, comma, how sweet. I really am nice when I keep a plan for your total destruction in my head. But I just smiled and continued setting the table, like the good boy I was supposed to be. Her conversations with Eric continued. She clearly thought I had no clue. You know, it's like watching someone step on a rake. But it hasn't hit them in the face yet, and you're just waiting for it to happen. I kept saving screenshots of their chats, gathering more and more evidence. Not only was she flirting with him, they were planning meetups. And, of course, she always found work, or a night out with friends, as an excuse. In my head, I was already picturing how this would all end. Friends, family, she's standing in the middle with a smile, giving a heartfelt speech about how much she loves me, and then I pull out my trump cards. Oh, buddy, I couldn't wait to see the look on her face when she realized that all her lies were about to be exposed in front of everyone. And so the evening drew near. I'd prepared not only the evidence on my phone, but also saved it on a flash drive, because, as they say, trust but verify. I was ready to drop everything. Photos, screenshots, messages, let everyone see who she really was. While I waited for the big day, Lily, unaware of anything, kept playing her game. Everything was going according to plan, and I knew this night would be unforgettable, just not for the reasons she hoped. Finally, the big night arrived. Our wedding anniversary. Lily dressed up like she was heading for the red carpet, covered in sparkle, as if a helicopter was about to swoop in and whisk her off to Hollywood. Friends and family were bustling around, all happy and cheerful, though I knew it was all just set dressing. Champagne was being passed around, people were chatting, laughing, while I stood there with a fake smile, waiting for this little play to hit its climax. Lily, of course, was the center of attention. She was talking to everyone, smiling so wide you'd think her face would crack from the overload of sweetness. Her voice was as sugary as cotton candy when she came over to me. "Honey, could you help me with the toast? I want tonight to be special." "Oh, believe me, it's going to be special, just not in the way you think." I smiled back at her, but inside I was getting ready for the finale. At that moment, I felt like a director about to unveil his masterpiece to the audience. I just needed to wait for the perfect moment. And then Lily took the stage. She stood up, called everyone to gather around, and started talking. It was all so typical. "We've been together for so many years. You've always supported me. I can't imagine my life without you." The usual load of lying garbage when you know this person is secretly cheating on you, while pretending to be the devoted, loving wife. "I'm so grateful to you, Josh, for everything you've done for me. We've been through so much together, and I believe we have even more beautiful moments ahead." At that moment, I knew. It was time. I stood up, took the mic from her, and holding it in my hands, looked around at the guests. All eyes were on me, as if they expected me to say something deeply moving. But instead, I decided to play on their curiosity. "Yes, Lily, that's true. We've been through a lot, so many interesting things, and I want to share that with all of you." Lily tensed a little, sensing something off in my tone, but this was just the beginning. I took out my phone and connected it to the TV that was standing in the room for ambiance. On the screen appeared a file labeled Lily and Eric. Oh, trust me, this was better than any movie. You know, Lily and I are so close that we share everything. For example, her texts with Eric. "Who's Eric?" you ask. Well, you'll see for yourselves. I started flipping through the screenshots of their chat on the screen, and the room fell dead silent. Everyone stared at the screen in horror, and Lily turned as white as a sheet. Each of her messages, each flirt with Eric was like a blow to her reputation. You could see her smile slowly fade from her face as her eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape. "So, folks," I said, wrapping up the slideshow. "She accused me of cheating to distract from her little affair. This whole circus, just to keep you from figuring out she's been living a double life." Lily lunged at me, trying to grab the mic out of my hands. "Josh, what are you doing? This isn't what you think. I can explain everything." "Oh, please, Lily," I waved her off. "Explain it to Eric when you're laughing together about how I didn't see through all your friends." The room exploded in shock. Guests started whispering. Her parents looked like they were about to faint. And Lily? She stood there, in the middle of all this chaos, unable to say anything because she knew she had nothing left to hide. It was all out in the open, and there it was, the moment of truth, with Lily standing amidst her crumbling reality and me soaking in the spectacle. Honestly, it felt like the final scene of an action movie where the villain finally gets what's coming to them. Only this was even better because it was real adrenaline. I was expecting Lily to say something, try to weasel her way out, but it seemed she realized that it was the end, and no fake apologies would save her. The guests were frozen in shock. Her parents were pale, like they'd just been doused with ice water. Lily's mom, who had always thought of her daughter as practically an angel, couldn't believe her eyes. Lily's dad had his head in his hands, looking like he was about to pass out. But what was really amazing was Lily's reaction. She didn't throw a fit, didn't break down in tears like someone might expect. No, she just stood there, stunned, as if this was a gut punch she never saw coming. "Josh, let's talk about this in private. Don't do this here," she started whispering, but I was already on a different wavelength. "Private? Oh no, sweetheart. You started this publicly, so we're ending it publicly. Not so fun playing these games when everyone knows the rules, is it?" I could see her practically trembling with rage. That perfect facade of hers was starting to crack right before my eyes. She glanced around the room, looking for allies, but no one dared to take her side. Even her best friend, who was likely in on all the games with Eric, stood silently, staring at the floor like a scolded child. "You don't understand. It's not what it seems," Lily finally blurted out, taking a step toward me. Oh, of course, she'd always been a master of excuses, but now her words sounded like pathetic, last-ditch attempts to pull something out of thin air. Everyone around us remained silent, unsure how to react. Her parents tried to piece together some sort of explanation, but they were so shocked they could barely speak. "Josh, at least let's leave and discuss this like adults," she continued. "Adults? Oh, come on, Lily. Why don't you tell everyone here how you spent your adult nights with Eric while telling me you were stuck at work?" I shot those words at her like the last bullet in the chamber. At that moment, I didn't feel any regret or pity, just relief that all her lies were finally out in the open. Honestly, I expected her to break down in tears, to cause a scene, but instead, she just turned pale and froze, as if she had been completely paralyzed. An awkward silence hung in the air. Guests began drifting off in all directions, not knowing how to handle what had just unfolded. Some even seemed amused. Who doesn't love a good drama at a party, right? But most were just too uncomfortable to engage with this emotional hurricane. I gave Lily one final look, knowing this was the end. The end of her, and all her pitiful attempts to play the victim. Her game was over. Once the guests started leaving, Lily stood there motionless, like a statue, just staring at me. She was clearly trying to come up with something to salvage the last remnants of her reputation, but all she managed was a pathetic, empty gaze. No hysterics, no tears, no accusations. Just the realization that she'd backed herself into a corner. When the last of the people finally left, an overwhelming silence filled the room. It was just the two of us, and our broken relationship lay scattered on the floor like a shattered vase that couldn't be pieced back together. "Josh," she started, her voice trembling. "Please, let's talk. It was a mistake. I didn't want it to end like this." "A mistake?" I almost laughed in her face. "You call a mistake breaking a plate or buying the wrong groceries? Cheating on your husband and lying to his face for months? That's not a mistake, Lily. That's a skill." "Are you serious, Lily? A mistake? You're calling this a mistake? Or maybe your friends also just mistakenly said they saw me with someone. Or did I mistakenly read your text with Eric?" I couldn't keep the sarcasm out of my voice. She bit her lip, trying to keep her composure, but I could see she was crumbling inside. It was like watching a house of cards collapse after being built for so long. "I just don't know what to do, Josh. This all got out of hand. I was stressed at work. Eric was just a distraction. I didn't mean to betray you, honestly." Her voice wavered more and more. "Yeah, sure, everyone's always stressed. It's like the universal excuse for messing up your life, but I was too drained from all the lies to even begin processing it." Her excuses were just a broken record at this point, and it became crystal clear that she had no idea what she'd done. "Listen, Lily," I sighed, trying to keep my cool. "You can keep lying to yourself all you want, but the fact remains. You betrayed me. You accused me of what you were doing yourself. And you know what? I don't care why you did it. The only thing that matters is that you're not the person I thought you were." My coldness seemed to break her down completely. She looked at me with a mix of despair and resignation, as if she finally realized it was all over. She made one more pitiful attempt. "Maybe we could still fix things? I don't want to lose you, Josh. You know I love you." Oh, that old tune. How many times have I heard something like that in movies or books? But now it sounded as fake as all her words over the past few months. Love? Is this how you show your love? Flirting with Eric and girls' nights out? You know, Lily, if that's love, I'd rather live alone. She lowered her gaze. It was clear that she finally understood. No words could bring me back. I was already far gone, emotionally, morally, and soon, physically. I turned and headed for the door. "Josh, please." Her voice followed me halfway. I paused for a second but didn't turn around. "We're done, Lily. I'll be filing for divorce. You can start packing." I walked out the door without looking back. Let her stand there, in the void she had created for herself. As I stepped out of the house, it felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I could literally feel myself breathe freely again. You know that sensation when you make a tough decision and then realize it was absolutely the right one? That's exactly how I felt. Like I'd been standing on the edge of a cliff and had finally stepped back. Lily was now in my past, along with all her problems, lies, and fake excuses. I got into my car and drove away without hesitation. No regrets, no pain, just a feeling that it was finally over. As I drove, I reflected on how easily we sometimes let people poison our lives. I'd spent so much time trying to be the good husband, not realizing that the person next to me was slowly destroying everything we'd built. But you know what's funny? Once you realize it was all a lie, you feel free. I wasn't angry or devastated. I was thrilled to finally be free. A few weeks passed, and I officially filed for divorce. Lily made one last attempt to reach out, to somehow make amends, but I left all her messages on read. For her, it was a desperate last grasp at something that had long since fallen apart, and for me, it was the final step into my new life. My friends, of course, were shocked when they found out everything. Some even felt sorry for Lily, but most were just happy for me. Everyone kept saying I'd made the right choice. Dude, even my best friend Sam, who usually stays out of drama, said, "Bro, I'm glad you got out of that mess alive. Time to look for new horizons." And here I am, man, moving forward. Yeah, I lost a lot of time on that marriage, but it was a lesson worth learning. Now I know that no fake smiles or false accusations will ever make me doubt myself again. Lily tried to paint me as the bad guy, but in the end, this whole story helped me see who I really am. The kind of person who isn't afraid to fight for his truth. Right now, I'm focused on myself. And you know what? This is the best time of my life. I've finally started doing all the things I've always wanted to. Traveling, meeting new people, working a job that truly makes me happy. I no longer feel cornered or accused of things I didn't do. Yeah, sometimes people ask me, "Josh, don't you regret it? Do I regret exposing Lily and her dirty secrets in front of everyone?" Not for a second. That moment was like the epic finale of a movie I'd gladly watch over and over again. Now I realize that sometimes you have to go through hell to come out into the light. I'm no longer looking back. I'm only looking forward to new opportunities, new people, and most importantly, the freedom I've been waiting for all this time.